Sekandar is a general on the march. He's never still for terribly long. He might be in Persia one day and wake up and say, now it's time to head south and invade India, which he does. And he finds himself army to army with the King Four, Foor. And they do something that I think we can all sort of recognize. They challenge, they engage in a plan for single combat. They each have huge armies on either side, and they're all about to go and charge together and slaughter one another to the best of their abilities. And the carnage will be enormous, as you can imagine. Instead, the two leaders to come together and say, look, let's settle this man to man. Not unlike you see in the Mahabharata or in the, from time to time, little battles throughout that. The same thing happens in the Iliad. These little incidents where everybody else stands back for just a little bit and watches the two big figures go at it. There's a lot of that throughout these middle period adventures of the so-called Middle Ages. You see it also in here in Beowulf, in the Chanson de Roland, where the great heroes don't want to get lost in the in everybody else in the crowd, so you get this very dramatic single mano a mano thing. Interestingly, they're sizing one another up. They're going around. Four is enormous. Sekandar, he's the scrawny European kid. He's scrappy and he's got heart, but he looks like a little girl next to the big Four. And oh boy, is he going to get his butt handed to him. This is going to be great. But off in the distance, somebody makes a noise. I don't know. They see a bug or something and freak out. Whoa! And Four goes, whoa! A little jumpy. Maybe he had a little too much coffee that morning. Who knows? He looks around, sort of like freaked out. Sekandar takes advantage, pounces, one slash with the sword. I think it severs his head from his shoulder or something like that. I forget. The dismemberment in these scenes can always get pretty gross. Now, that's a great little moment. Nice little battlefield thing. Almost a little bit of a letdown after you could see these two guys like, yeah, all right, this is going to be a great fight. And then, something freaky happens and you don't get the fight. You get this odd accident that Sekandar is able to take advantage of. You pull back from that just a little bit, from the oddity of that. Why would they do that? Why not have a great scene where, they're fighting one after the other and, heroic blows and uppercuts and all of this stuff and boasts and, you can write a fight scene so many different ways. Why do it that way? So you pull back and you say, well, why? And you think, well, all right, a random event. Off in the distance, someone, we have no idea who, we don't really care. Somebody screams, Four gets distracted. Fate intervenes. It wasn't what you would expect. The much larger and stronger force was brought down by a much weaker, smaller force. Well, when you talk about it at that general level, what does that kind of sound like? battles of empires, a rebellion. And in this, it's not necessarily, you know, the overwhelming skill of the hero Sekandar. He just sort of takes advantage of a freak occurrence and comes out on top. 99 times out of 100, 4 probably would have just decimated poor Sekandar in that instance. But because of that freaky twist of fate, 4 gets his head cut off. Fate can be like that. And here the poem is suggesting that, well, to everybody who feels so secure because of the size of their army, to everybody up in charge in the big buildings, looking down on the rest of us, accidents have been known to happen. You know what I'm saying? Some little twist of fate will take you and bring you down. Again, there's that word fate. Daru said it on his deathbed. It's all going to happen one way or the other, and you can't control it. Fate. You might think you're tough now, but life is funny that way. Fate will always, always rule in the end, and you are powerless to affect it. Sekandar in India goes and designates a regent to rule in his place. The guy's got commitment issues. He doesn't want to stick around too long. He's a young man, you know, he's much rather be out there traveling. So he picks somebody, says, okay, rule in my place, which was a fairly standard model for the real Alexander. He had no interest in sticking around and, you know, being the new king of any of these places. He had wanderlust. He wanted to go out and find the next kingdom to conquer. So he would set up a government. For the most part, leave them their own cultures and say, look, everything's going to be fine. Just send me money on a very regular basis. And believe what you want, do what you want, you know, live and let live. I'm not saying that's every instance, but that was largely a model that historians say he followed, was echoed later on by the Roman Empire. It's really the only effective way, politically, I guess you could say, to rule nominally over a very large, diverse area. So when you're stretching from the Western Mediterranean out to the foothills of the Himalayas, that's a whole lot of very different people. You can't have a one-size-fits-all government. You put people in place who know the area, know the people, and you say, okay, you know, run it as you see fit. I'm not going to micromanage, would be the term today. And just, you know, send me my money every now and then. But he also gives some advice to this new regent. Don't hide your gold away. Distribute and consume whatever comes to you, and put no faith in this passing world, which sometimes favors Sekandar, sometimes 4, and sometimes gives us pain and rage, sometimes joy and feasting. It's good operational advice, quite frankly. Don't just take all of the wealth of the city, of the kingdom, whatever, and sock it away, spread it around a little. You see this a lot in other stuff from this time. You see this a lot in Beowulf again. You see this. This is advice that that Machiavelli gives. If you are hoarding your money, people will resent you. You spread it around. Give everybody a nice big bonus at the end of the year, and they will be very, very happy and very loyal. But also note again the notion of fate and the inevitability of death. It's no good for you to just save all of your money all the time, no matter what your parents say. Put no faith in this passing world. You could get hit by a bus tomorrow. What does your savings account do for you?
I think like this was like a while ago in English class. They did the story of like the grasshopper and the ants. I'm not sure if you know it.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like, you know, how like there's like two characters. One just, you know, has fun, while the other you know, has to work, like, you know, what
right.
are. And then they all got, you know, destroyed by I forgot what was the full story. Like they both, the story was like, it's like, you know, you always have to focus on, you know, getting like focus on one thing, but if you're too focused, life just hits you and then you get all that work for nothing.
Yeah. Those are the grasshopper and the ant, the rabbit and the hare, all these little folk tales, fables in a lot of traditions. We see some in like Aesop, and there's some really great ones out of the Indian tradition that we're not doing this semester. But these are short narratives that provide advice, you know, often with talking animals or something like that, and it's really cute, and it's very easy to dispel that. It's like, well, you know, it's talking animals, it's like a Disney cartoon, come on. But often what that is very specific advice on how to get through life, and here you're getting very specific advice on how to get through life as a king. And this is one of the other goals of this text. Let's not forget that the subtitle of this, we can see on the title page, is the Book of Kings. This is a book of advice. You get a lot of situations that would crop up for the average ruler or even administrator in a government. The complications that come from running a very large empire, a nation as it were, rather than a tribe, are enormous. So you have to be, you have to take that seriously. You cannot run a large multinational corporation as you would if you were the night manager at a McDonald's. It just doesn't work. So these books started to come out that give advice for princes. Again, Machiavelli is the great example of that a few hundred years after this, but this book is giving very specific advice to people come along who can read in, you know, very entertaining stories of how they should behave. And that little nugget of advice is something fairly concrete. Don't hoard your money. Share it around. It's good for the economy. It's good for you politically because people will like you more if you are not just taking all the money and sticking it under your mattress. do what I'm saying.